I'm Vickie Thomas, the host of Critical Conversations. The program allows us to educate and foster greater understanding of issues we care about, especially those matters some of us may know little about.
Are we still seeing instances where you have to continue to fight and people just are not complying with the law?
It's so gratifying to meet someone in the community who says, hey, you talked about something that really made a difference in my life. Critical Conversations is engaging, inspiring, and always entertaining.
Welcome to the latest edition of Critical Conversations. This time we delve into Juneteenth, the history of it, what exactly is Juneteenth, how we should celebrate it, and who should celebrate it. And joining us to talk about the topic is the super talented Ezebe Nnamdi, Executive Director of Nnamdi Center for Contemporary Art. And we also want to thank you for just allowing us to be in this beautiful space today. Also joining us is a man who made history himself when he became the city of Detroit's first ever historian. Baba Jaman Jordan, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And of course, we're going to start with you, right?
Right, the history.
The history of Juneteenth. We know about the Emancipation Proclamation, but some of us didn't know, our ancestors didn't know that they were free.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we talk about emancipation, many times we talk about it as if it's a one-day event. January 1st, 1863, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, everybody got free. And of course, that's a myth. That's not what happened. Emancipation, freedom from slavery, was a process that had to occur through a war. And that war, of course, was the Civil War. And in the middle of that war, Lincoln did sign the Emancipation Proclamation, which only applied to the states in rebellion. So there were border states that still had slavery. There were areas in the South that were in control by the Union military. They still had slavery. So slavery did not end because of the Emancipation Proclamation. So that's the first thing. The other thing.
And a lot of people think that that's the case, though.
Yeah, that is. Lincoln is the great emancipator, and that's the end of slavery when he signed that, which, of course, if we delve into the history, we know that that's not the case. The other thing that we ought to also understand is that he's fighting a war with the South. So him declaring the people free in the South, the people in the South don't listen to him. The Confederacy are fighting a war with him. So they're not going to free people because the man they're fighting or the army led or commanded by the man they're fighting says they're free. So that means there's got to be a process. And that process is the Union military has to go into places in the South where people are being enslaved. And those enslaved people have to run away to Union lines. Within the first 6 months of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, 500,000 people escaped from slavery. Word got out. There's no Facebook, there's nobody texted anybody, but they found out through word of mouth because anything that white people knew in the South, black people knew in the South. They were everywhere. They were in the homes, they were on the plantations, they were in the shops, they were everywhere that the people who were enslaving them were. So they found out about everything. And once they found out that if they made it to Union lines, they'd be free, they began to escape. However, slave owners also know that if the Union shows up, that the people they're enslaving have an opportunity to escape.
Right.
Groups of slave owners, particularly in Louisiana and other parts of Texas, moved to Galveston and to South Texas to get further away from any war activity. That way, they don't have to deal with Union military. And that way, they can continue being enslaved. Now, these black people who are enslaved in Texas, for the most part, they know that if they could escape, they could get free. But it's almost impossible for them to escape. There's patrollers, there's slave catchers, there's slave owners themselves, overseers keeping them away from being able to escape. So sometimes we speak of these were the last folks to find out they were free. No, they knew where they were. They knew the Emancipation Proclamation had happened and that if they could escape, they could get free. They're the last people that the Union military shows up to end slavery. Everywhere slavery ends, there's some fighting, there's some bloodshed that has to happen. And Galveston, Texas is really kind of the last place where that bloodshed will happen.
And it took 2 years.
That's right,
That's right. Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, January 1st, 1863 is the Emancipation Proclamation. June 19th, 1865. So this is 2.5 years later. In fact, Lincoln's dead. The Civil War is over by the time that the Juneteenth occurs. And so, yes, so much stuff has happened. They've already begun the process of passing the 13th Amendment, which would make slavery unconstitutional throughout the whole country. That's already begun by the time we get to Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865.
Unbelievable. And Ezebe, when did you first find out about Juneteenth, and just share your thoughts?
I honestly, I don't even know when I first found out. It's just always culturally, history-wise, I've just always kind of been immersed with certain things that may have taken place throughout our history. Right. And so I don't look at it as a time that I found out as much as it is just a thing you always knew, right? But I really like the way you kind of eloquently just put together our history recap, if you will, regarding what Juneteenth is. And then I want to kind of like, I'm going to move a little bit into today, that same energy of ensuring that we continue to teach one another is something that I think we see a lot of right now, particularly the pandemic. The energy from the pandemic really has shown us that we must continue to come together in this sort of fashion. The one piece that I would like to also highlight in regards to that history is that during that time, when the individuals in Galveston are going through their freedom call, if you will, a lot of the former, a lot of African Americans who were free at that time, they helped ensure that those individuals knew what their voting rights were, what their process was as a free person, if you will. And so I think that one of the things that we can do as we celebrate Juneteenth is to ensure that we continue to have that level of education involved. So letting us know what we do as a community, what are our voting rights. We have Roe versus Wade. I mean, we have like a lot of different things that are coming on the forefront, but that's an important.
So that was early on. That was one of the things that
we made sure we did that for one another, and we have to continue to have that that kind of presence for ourselves.
And we're not talking about a small number of slaves that did not realize they were free until 2 years later. We're talking about 200,000, about right?
That's right, yeah. So in the South, but at the beginning of the Civil War, there's almost 2 million, 1.5 million people enslaved in the southern states. And it will be the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th Amendment, the people escaping, all of these processes will end slavery for that 1.5 million people in the South.
Thank you. When we come back, we're going to take a look at how do we celebrate Juneteenth? What was the tradition, and how do we celebrate it now? That's coming right up.
I'm Scott Benson, and I am proud to represent the 3rd District on Detroit City Council. I am raising my family in this city. I believe that together we can build an even stronger and more beautiful Detroit. Detroit offers curbside pickup for recycling, brush, and trash, including bulk items. Sign up for your blue recycling cart today and reduce the amount of trash your household sends to landfills. Curb, brush, and bulk trash items properly when leaving them out for service. This will ensure that it is collected and not left to clutter up our streets. There's also an affordable paid pickup option for items that exceed city limits. Residents can also drop off items at any of the DPW drop-off centers for free. Let's all be good neighbors and help make our streets green and clean. Log on to DetroitRecycles.org today and sign up for your free recycling cart.
And welcome back. So how do we celebrate Juneteenth? I know that back in 1865, there were celebrations that included prayer services, food, festivities, and things like that. Jamon, talk a little bit about how we celebrate Juneteenth?
So Juneteenth, of course, is a celebration that was created by African Americans. Black people created this celebration when they attained freedom through much of their own efforts as well. They celebrated Juneteenth. Your earliest Juneteenth celebrations are in 1866, 1 year after the proclamation by General Gordon Granger in Galveston, Texas. There are black people going to parks, having all kinds of celebrations, and when they're being blocked during the Jim Crow era from celebrating in those parks, a group of black business people buy a park so that they can continue having their Juneteenth celebrations. So it's also a celebration of self-determination. All Juneteenth celebrations are like celebrations of freedom, jubilee, celebrations of now being in control of your own lives. But every Juneteenth celebration has, as part of its component, food and dance and music. Part of its component is education. There's some teaching about this history of the fight for freedom. That has to be a part of all Juneteenth celebrations. The fun part has to happen, but this piece that black people had to fight for their freedom has to also be a part of every Juneteenth celebration.
And is A-Bank?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And one of the things that we're doing for Juneteenth is we're saying we're going to elevate the love space, right? So with that education, we're just going to kind of have a full day of just love, right? A weekend actually too. So that Friday we're doing Love Trap. It's going to be a new exhibition that we have. It's going to be about quilting. And so that brings into our history, our fabric of who we are, you know. Then, you know, the 18th, we're just doing a full day, showing Love Jones, having an artist talk, talking about self-love, self-care, all of that. And then we'll be doing spoken word later that evening. And really tapping the local community, the poets in the community, to really kind of uplift what it is, what does it mean to be African American, what does it mean to be black, what does it mean within our space, how we lean in on one another to ensure that we just are the best we can be, really, you know.
And I know there's a huge celebration that the city of Detroit is co-sponsoring.
Absolutely.
In Eastern Market Shed 5, and that should be great. I want to ask you about who should celebrate Juneteenth. There was an event that was planned in Arkansas, and all the speakers were white. It created such an uproar on social media, it went viral, that the event was soon after canceled. Let's start with you, Izebe. Who should celebrate Juneteenth?
Well, definitely African Americans. So whether you appreciate it or not, it's just something you want to do. That's about just knowing yourself, thyself. You kind of just tune into that. That's right. But the thing is, as we've heard earlier, right? So there's also the Civil War going on. So at what point, how is it shared history? So, you know, because I'm white, that I can't celebrate Juneteenth, but I was in that Civil War side. So everybody's participating. So we got to figure out what we're doing when we say how we want our history to be preserved. Yes, there's a certain responsibility that we have, that we should be the persons to kind of keep that torch and, you know, preserve it. But at the same time, if you're involved in history with others, if you will, then that's where it kind of becomes that thing on what do we do? You know what I mean? So Black History Month, happy that we have it. However, it's every day. It's not just that month. So is it American history? Is it Black history? I mean, so it's like that nuance that we have that we toy with. And I think we're always dealing with that within society.
I mean, black people celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
That part.
That's right.
And St. Patrick's Day. I mean, I'm just saying we get into it. So it's kind of that's where that's where it becomes a thing.
Baba Jamal Jordan, what was the issue in your mind though with that one event in Arkansas that was?
So I would say the real issue is that everybody who celebrates freedom should celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth is a freedom celebration. So anybody who cares about freedom and liberty ought to be celebrating Juneteenth. However, if you're going to have speakers, if you're going to have people running a program, if there are African Americans who are versed in the history of Juneteenth available, it does not make sense. It's not logical that you would pick an all-white panel to discuss Juneteenth and there are African Americans there. It would not make sense that if it was Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and you had an Asian American available who knew about this history. It wouldn't make sense that the whole panel would be white or African American for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So when we talk about this heritage, Juneteenth, this struggle for freedom, I mean, there are times when you may not be able to, you're at a school, you're in a class, you're the teacher, and you're white, and you need to be talking about Juneteenth to your class. But if you got this big program, and you can bring people from all over, it should be an African American in that, as part of that process.
All right, thank you.
That's very appropriate.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from another historian, Kimberly L. Simmons, who happens to be the 2022 Michigan Humanities Champion of the Year. And you can watch her video right now.
Our monument is called the International Underground Railroad Memorial Monument in Hart Plaza. It is actually one monument split in half. The monument on the north side of the Detroit River is called the Gateway to Freedom. The Gateway to Freedom depicts a family, not necessarily a real bloodline family, but it's a family. Perhaps they met each other on the road, or maybe they met each other along the way where they were actually enslaved in the South. And they decided to band together to find that place known as Midnight. Midnight was the code word, the code name for this place that we call home, and that's the city of Detroit. Why was Midnight the name? Midnight was the last train in to Detroit every day. There are stories of freedom all over the city of Detroit. And here where we are, this place is a place that Seymour Finney had. He had a barn and a hotel. We're standing on the hotel site, and as he got bounty hunters blasted on liquor, he had sometimes at sometimes 200 people hiding in his barn, waiting for them to pass out so he could get them across the river to freedom. Oh, I think Juneteenth is a well-worthy holiday to celebrate. It recognizes the fact that there were people, the last of the people, the last of our people that were actually enslaved, were told they were free. But in order to put that into perspective in other parts of the country, that holiday literally is a Texas holiday that has been expanded. And here in our city, at a place that has a river 32 miles long, of which out of the 100,000 people that escaped using the Underground Railroad, 30,000, anywhere between 25 and 30,000 of them escaped across our river. So to honor what happened here in Detroit, I think we need to look toward emancipation as well. That is another day that during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, there was a 3-day festival with 500,000 people, very diverse, that celebrated on both sides of our river.
Historian Kimberly Simmons setting the stage for our next segment, really looking at how Detroit figures into all of this and just what a special place Detroit has been for many slaves fleeing the South. So talk about some of those sites, Jamon, because I know you do a lot of tours and educate people about some of the historic sites in the Detroit area.
Yeah, so she really highlighted two very important sites. The Gateway to Freedom International Underground Railroad Memorial, which that monument, which is an international monument, one part is in Detroit in America, the other part is in Canada. That monument really highlights Detroit's role on the Underground Railroad, and the code name, of course, Midnight, which is the last place before you're going to get to freedom in Canada and outside of the purview of the fugitive slave laws of the United States. And the other site, the site where Seymour Finney's barn was in Capitol Park. And Seymour Finney, of course, ran a hotel and also a barn. Behind tons of hay in that barn was a hiding place, a station on the Underground Railroad. He's working with an African-American named George Dolerson, who is a conductor on the Underground Railroad. And what we ought to understand about the Underground Railroad, like the fight for freedom itself, is that African-Americans are the leaders of this fight for freedom. So Harriet Tubman is not the exception. That's the way the Underground Railroad works. Black people are the leaders for their own freedom. They're not being freed by sympathetic whites. Sympathetic whites are working with African-Americans, helping other freedom seekers is the term we use for people who are escaping from slavery. Detroit plays a major role in all of this, all the way into our own Juneteenth story. June 17th, 1833, when an uprising occurs in the city of Detroit to free Thornton and Lucy Blackburn, who've been captured by the sheriff, the deputy, and two slave catchers. June 17th, 1833, 400 black people show up at the jail. They free Thornton and Lucy Blackburn, severely injure the sheriff, and rescue this couple and help them to get over to Canada. And this really begins the organizing of the black community, as well as the organizing of the Underground Railroad leadership in the city of Detroit. So Detroit plays this vital role in the Underground Railroad, and it has its own Juneteenth story to boot.
Wow. Bay.
I can't follow that. I just love it. I love history. I love history. You know, that's one of the things that I was speaking with them earlier in regards to just kind of, it's not just Detroit as well, but like even Bay City. You know, the founder of Bay City, he was helping to take the Africans to Canada, and so he got ran out of Kentucky, and then he started taking the Africans to Canada through Bay City. And so, you know, sometimes we, not just in our city, but too, when we want to explore those places that are near us, we see our connection to Detroit too in that way. So I think we need more of your knowledge out here.
Right.
Just, you know, really kind of maybe going into the schools and ensuring that our youth and adults, how about that? Know what's going on here.
Because really, when you look at it, Juneteenth is relatively new in terms of being a holiday and being acknowledged. It was Martha Scott, who was a state senator at the time, now a Wayne County commissioner, who sponsored the Senate Bill 384 to recognize Juneteenth as a official state holiday, and that was in April of 2005, and then that same year, it was Governor Jennifer Granholm who signed it into law, and just now, President Biden, when he took office, 2021.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is relatively new, but I guess your point would be is we should still know our history, right? We should still know our history, right?
Barbara Rose Collins, who was who was a congresswoman, she sponsored legislation that make Juneteenth a national holiday even before it became a state holiday. So there's been this fight for Juneteenth. And the reason why Juneteenth is so important and it outstrips some of the other emancipation celebrations is because Juneteenth, the idea of Juneteenth is that this is the celebration of all of us getting free.
That's right.
Not some of us by January 1st, 1863, or some of us even escaping with Harriet Tubman on the Underground Railroad and other leaders of the Underground Railroad, where some people got free, but there were other people enslaved.
Right.
Juneteenth, the idea is that all of us are finally free.
Right.
And so we're going to celebrate that because now it's not just some of us. It's not about it's not about me or you. It's about us and we. And so this is the African concept that the community is greater than the individual.
All right. Well, when we come back, we'll be wrapping it up with just how inspired you can be when you really look at how far we've come, and we still have a long way to go, but we'll be talking about that coming up.
There's nothing worse than wasting time. Well, maybe waiting in lines. But now I can pay my water bill from my phone, tablet, or laptop. All it takes is a quick click and bam, I can check, manage, and pay my water bill from anywhere. That means more time with the family at Rouge Park, more time for myself on the Riverwalk, or just at home on Outer Drive. I can pay my water bill anywhere. It's that easy. So skip the line and pay your bill online. Visit www.detroitmi.gov/paymywaterbill to register today.
Welcome back, and to our guest. For a lot of people, just the discussion of slavery is painful. But I want to leave on a positive note about just the way that they fought for their freedom. The way you said, the cohesiveness, not one, but all. Talk a little bit about the inspiration that you think people can gain from the fight for freedom.
Yes, slavery, of course, is a horrible part of world history, but definitely a part of America's history. So it's a horrible part, but this fight for freedom is the inspiring part, that there's never been a time when people were enslaved and they didn't resist that enslavement. They were running away, they were breaking the tools, they were burning the crops, they were fighting slave revolts. That's the inspiring part, that they never accepted their enslavement. They were always fighting for freedom. And then when they got free, they were the major leaders, the people who were free, black people who got free, were the major leaders of helping other black people get free. Harriet Tubman's not the only story. When she escapes, we know she goes back to get her family, and then after that goes back and gets many other people.
Right.
Well, that is really the story of the Underground Railroad. Black people getting free themselves, and then helping other people get free. Or black people being born free, and then joining this movement to help other black people attain freedom. That's the inspiration, that no one is satisfied with their own position, their own circumstance, their own freedom. They are not free until all of us are free, and they're involved in the fight so that everybody can become free and liberated. That's the inspiration for Juneteenth. That's the inspiration that we ought to take from talking about the history of slavery.
And how do you
It's
define the inspiration within the story?
It's the collective energy that rolls out of it. But the one thing, though, it makes me do is stop and ponder and really look at those within our heritage, history, et cetera, that really played a role in our community development, if you will. And with it being Father's Day weekend as well, you know, one of the person I'm going to highlight the most from our history standpoint is going to be Paul Cuffey. And he was a whaler. And so, you know, like Marcus Garvey, he was taking people back to Africa too. So he was doing the whole Sierra Leone, And Paul Cuffey was extremely powerful in what he did for us. He supplied the home goods for Martha's Vineyard, the islands. And so, but we don't realize we're doing that. So I want to, you know, kind of push individuals that are in our history, just push them up, you know, a little bit.
Right.
So, because they did that. I mean, he went to war. They stole the ships. He went and knocked on the White House door. Okay, somebody took my ships. I need my ships back. Yes, knock, knock.
Knock,
okay.
knock.
So it's like, but we did that.
Right.
He did that. You see, and connecting it to the voting standpoint, he's also, him and his brother had a lot of land, but then that's where they share. So I'm renting my plot from him, right? And they wanted them to start paying taxes. And they were like, well, we can't vote. Why would we be paying taxes? So we have these people. So we always come back to this. The community. We're gonna, you know, kind of lift us all up together.
Right.
Then we also have that education component that comes into play from the voting standpoint. And I got to keep on pushing back on that part too.
Yeah.
Because that's extremely
Hugely
important.
important, yes, definitely.
Exactly.
Well, I really want to thank you both, especially you, Azebe, and your dad, George, for opening up the space to us today. If you have never been here, you need to come down and check it out. And of course, to you, our official historian in the city of Detroit, Baba Jaman Jordan, and also to like to thank Kimberly L. Simmons, who again was the 2022 Michigan Humanitarian of the Year, for her contribution to the show with that wonderful video looking at Detroit landmarks. And of course, we'd like to thank you for tuning in again. I'm Vickie Thomas.
We are the ones, you that are marching in Selma, you that are marching all over America, we're the ones that'll make America great for everybody for the first time.
There are times in your life when it seems not worth the fight. You wanna give in. You don't care if you win. But something deep down inside keeps pushing you higher. And you make up your mind to give it just one more time. You've come too far to turn back. Don't let your passion relax. Let it grow so the world will know. Reach in your heart and find it. Reclaim your gift, fight for it. It's your time to claim your prize. You've already won, a true champion. You're a winner, a strong survivor. Keep going on. You've already won, Olympian. Never stop striving, always keep trying until it's done. You've already won. 'Cause sometimes and you wanna throw in the towel, but your heart says not now. Life happens, distractions come along the way, but you pick yourself up and you go on anyway. You've come too far to turn back. Don't let your passion relax. Let it grow so the world will know. Reach in your heart and find it. Reclaim your gift, fight for it. It's your time.
So you march today so that your children and your children's children will not need to march tomorrow. So when the history books are written about the year 2020, it won't just be about COVID-19. It will be about all freedom fighters that were on the scene to make a difference in the cause of justice.
Never stop striving, always keep trying until it's done. You've already won. You've already won. You've already won. You've already won. Don't stop until it's done. You've already